So it's another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. I'm Jared.
I'm Brandon.
And we're talking all Survivor Series heading into the 35th edition of it, as well as a little bit of AEW's Full Gear from this past weekend. Another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast is on the air.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So this is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. Brandon, myself, Jared, make sure to follow the show at Heel to the Face as we are heading in to Survivor Series this upcoming Sunday night at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. And we're coming off of AEW Full Gear. We got a lot of stuff to talk about Survivor Series-wise, both this upcoming edition as well as some fun facts, notes, and just
some throwbacks.
Some interesting stuff, as it is the second oldest pay-per-view in WWE. And, well, WWE... second old pay-per-view period, because WWE's older than New Japan, is older than AEW, so second oldest pay-per-view.
And it's one of my favorite shows of the year.
And it's one of his favorite shows of the year, which is a little confusing. We'll talk that, but first, we'll get to AEW Full Gear this past Saturday night in Minneapolis. You watched it before I did. Some takeaways, obviously, the Hangman Page thing. We talked about that, and it kind of went down almost as on the shoulders of other wrestlers to go off the air. I don't know if there was the confetti, but a similar kind of coronation.
I have to say, we can go back to the tape and check this out, but I think I got everything right except for one match, which was the match I thought would be the easiest choice, which was the Adam Cole match. Mm-hmm. That was the only match I got wrong, if I'm not mistaken. We can go back to the tape and check it out. I have to ask you, though, what are your thoughts on Jay Lethal? That is awesome.
My thoughts are that when Ring of Honor does return, it's going to have an interesting look. And Jay Lethal is this guy who has now been in every single company except WWE.
How crazy.
He's got, he's been in WCW. For a very short span. He's been in Impact. He has been in the new Impact.
I mean, he's been a Ring of Honor staple.
Yeah, he's been in Ring of Honor. Don't quote me, but I believe he's been in New Japan. I don't exactly remember the match, but I'm almost guaranteed
it was a cup of coffee, right?
Yes, yeah. But he's done some stuff with New Japan. It might even be more than a cup of coffee. It's eluding me right now. But either way, Jay Lethal, he has been somebody who kind of was like doing the Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes thing years ago, where he was able to make a good living for himself without ever going to WWE.
And kudos to him for that, by the way. I was not expecting Jay Lethal. That was a really cool surprise when I saw the music, or heard the music, and I saw the graphic come up. I was like, "Oh, okay, all right, this is good." I was very.
Were
very
you
excited.
really too surprised? I mean, surprised maybe as in it was happening at this event.
If it was any like. I wouldn't have thought Jay Lethal, to be honest with you. I thought maybe Jay Lethal would go just do what he's been doing forever, go on the independent circuit and just do his thing there. I really didn't think it was going to be AEW. If any of the main names that I know of Ring of Honor, you know them better than I do.
He is the biggest one from Ring of Honor, though.
Dalton Castle is the name that I was thinking.
Well, yes, Dalton Castle, but Dalton Castle has been doing more of the indies. He could definitely go back to the indies easier than Jay Lethal, because Jay Lethal has been at least with a company. While not big companies, he's been with the company.
Yeah, it was. I will say this. It just, seeing him there, and then he's going to have a match right off the bat, which is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, then we're taping this on Wednesday night right before Dynamite. He's going to take on Sammy Guevara. Is it for the TNT belt, or is it?
It is.
It is for the TNT belt. I know he's the TNT champion.
That'll be fun. I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, and no better way to get you amped for the next show than, have someone debut at a pay-per-view and then immediately be like this Wednesday night. But other than that, AEW Full Gear, a decent show.
I think it was one of the best shows of the year.
I mean, yeah.
That was a hell of a show. I wouldn't even say decent. That was a really good show.
AEW has a hard time putting on a bad pay-per-view.
That is valid. That is a valid point.
I can't think of an AEW pay-per-view this year that was just, awful. They were all pretty good.
Here's the thing. That was a great show, even without Mox. I mean, Mox is one of their main guys, and it was still a good show. We can't wait to see Mox back, obviously, hopefully soon. But I have to tell you, from start to finish, that I was glued to my couch watching every single match, just every little commentary.
There was nothing short. I mean, obviously that match with the Young Bucks. I mean, that went on. It felt like a half an hour,
probably forever. But it was a good match.
And they did so many spots in that match that you thought, okay, in the street fight, that you thought, okay, this could be the finishing spot. But then they kept going and doing more and more spots.
What was your match of the night?
It might.
If you had to pick one.
Yeah, it might have to be that street fight with the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express.
That was fun.
Yeah,
I would just say this. I mean, probably a cliche answer, but I think a lot of people would agree. I think the Hangman Omega match was the best match of the night. Obviously, I think it's the main event for a reason. It's supposed to be the best match of the night. I thought it was fantastic. I like the fact that Hangman did the one-legged angel on Omega. For a second, I was like, wait a second, he ain't getting the 3 count on this. And then Omega got,
I mean, the
out.
show kicked off with MJF and Darby Allin in a great match.
That was fun too. That was a great match. I mean, MJF and Darby Allin, they are AEW originals. They are going to be carrying the flag way after Chris Jericho is gone, way after some of these older indie wrestlers that have come into AEW are going to be gone. Because here's the thing. Those guys are in their 20s. They're going to be doing wrestling. They're going to be doing this thing called wrestling for a long time.
Hopefully, yes.
I think they will, barring anything serious, which obviously we hope not. I'll tell you this right now. Just Hangman is, one of the guys I've been rooting for since AEW came out. I knew a little bit about his career before AEW was the thing, and I've been a fan since. As soon as I saw him for the first time in AEW, I was like, this guy's a future world champ. He's going to be a flag bearer along with MJF and Darby Allin, of course, and Sammy Guevara I would put in that category as well. They're really building great storylines, and this culmination to where Hangman finally gets the belt, I couldn't be happier. I think AEW is in a great groove right now.
Remember Kenny Omega, which you might forget. He was one time a man of all belts, but right now he just has the AAA belt. Apparently he's going to be defending it in December. I don't know exactly who he's defending it against. I saw a quick preview of who he's going to face in December down in Monterrey, Mexico, but he still is the AAA champion.
For now.
But at one time he was the AAA, the AEW, and the Impact.
Yeah, so maybe it's Kenny no belts soon enough.
Maybe it'll be Kenny no belt soon enough. But, I feel like with a company like AAA, you might want to keep it on him a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, I don't think
unless you're giving it to like the Alberto Del Rio or the Andrades or something like that.
Yeah, if you're giving
another
it to
name,
one of those dudes, yeah. That would make sense.
But, maybe that's just for lack of me knowing more about AAA and the Mexican landscape.
I don't know. I'm not a huge insider on that side of the globe or the wrestling side of things. Same thing with Japan. You know a little bit more than I do. And I know you. Well,
Japan seems to come over to, obviously they're running shows all the time in America now with New Japan Wrestling. AAA has been staying mostly in Mexico, maybe some southern parts of, Texas, California, but for the most part, it's a Mexican branded organization, while, New Japan is pretty much half in America, half in Japan now.
Yeah, no, that's true, and they are making their footprint where it's getting more American eyeballs than the Japanese product, so I'm getting more familiar with it. I won't say I'm an expert on it like you are. I'm
not an expert.
You're better
by
with
any
it
means.
than I am.
There are some marks out there that would definitely say, don't go out here claiming you're an expert. So I won't do that because.
Oh, jeez. You don't want to get on Twitter and get somebody upset.
Yeah, there are some marks out there who definitely know that more New Japan. They've probably been following New Japan AEW style for longer than I have. Where they know the ins and the outs. They knew the Juice Robinsons long before me.
Even before you? You're the encyclopedia.
Not of New Japan.
Of wrestling,
but maybe of the Survivor Series in WWE.
Oh,
WWE.
Wow. I can't wait to get to that.
That's but moving over to something else in the world of WWE, and that is that apparently USA Network has given WWE the okay to make NXT. I don't know if all the programs, but NXT TV 14. And I guess my question is, so WWE, I don't know if they've asked for this, but I think it was brought to their attention. They said they would be okay with it. And I think WWE is also mulled over. That's why this got brought up. But my question is, what exactly in today, 2021, would make, TV 14, what would make it different?
More swear words. More, I wouldn't say it's going to go all the way to the Attitude Era-esque, but they're gonna blur the lines a little bit more than they can right now. I don't know. I don't think it's a significant difference. No, I'll say that.
Because I guess my thing is when WWF was TV 14 in the late 90s and early 2000s, that was a completely different landscape in the world of television, in which now, for example, South Park, that was TVMA. And now I feel like that's TV 14. In comparison, I feel like the TVPGs of the world are mostly like what TV 14 is. I don't see anything.
The landscape's changed for sure.
Yeah, I don't see WWE going back to the Attitude Era with a lot of storylines, regardless of being TV 14, just because they're a publicly traded company and they, have all sorts of hands in pots, whether it be your Disney theory or whether it just be merchandising, what have you. So I don't see them going into, the Katie Vick angle again. or, the Brian Pillman angle again or any nonsense like that. I don't see that happening.
I think they're going to blur the lines a little bit. I really think. I
would love to see it.
Yeah, I would.
Because to be honest with you, I think TV 14 nowadays would be more like TV MA. Because of the fact that, like a good example, and I always use this. I don't really know, and I wish somebody out there would help me know a little bit more. I've inquired about this, but I watch a lot of TV nowadays, and I remember specifically NYPD Blue had to get permission to say shit on television. They said it once. They were allowed to say it once. I believe that was a TV MA episode.
Sure.
And then South Park got the same permission, had to also get permission to do it on a TV MA show, had to get permission to say it. They said it like 1,000,000 times. That was the gimmick. They said it like 50 times.
Well, here's the other thing, too. On regular television, NYPD Blue, for example, I think they got to show the first ass on someone's ass on TV, if I'm not mistaken.
So with that being said, I
think that's what it was.
I watch shows like American Horror Story and Fargo and whatever have you off television nowadays. The new Chucky series, I see that.
Of course you do.
And they are saying the F word. On Sci-Fi Network and USA Network.
Yeah,
on
it's
left
after
and right.
It's after 10 o'clock now.
So with
it's like the new safe harbor. I think I'm not 100% on that.
And I understand cable and network television have different rules, but at the same time, I remember South Park being on cable, being on Comedy Central, needed permission to say shit on a TV MA show, a show that had a warning, which was one of the only ones that had a warning before the show. It was TV MA.
I watch shows even on FX. I watch stuff on Paramount. I watch all the different not your normal network television. I watch the cable shows
that look like HBO shows.
They look like HBO, Starz, Cinemax.
Yeah,
it's all of those, and you get the F words. You get some nudity. Yeah. You get all that.
Even cable, even Comedy Central, you weren't getting the F word. I remember once in a great while that I think after midnight they had that. We're going back early 2000s. They had those uncensored movies, and they would advertise it to be like after midnight on Sunday at 1 a.m. half baked, uncensored. I forgot what it was, like After Dark or something like that, where they play it uncut. But for the most part, any show,
because it was during the safe harbor hours.
Well, it was like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. But again, they had to advertise it. It was a special thing. Other than that, even Comedy Central was blurring out the F word at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night.
After 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
After 10 o'clock, you can do it, especially on
Is that the rule, 10 o'clock?
I think that's the rule.
Because I don't know the rule, because apparently, anyone's just doing everything.
I don't know what happened because I didn't know. Of course, I've been, I noticed it last night. Now that I was just watching, I just finally caught up on Monday Night Raw last night, and Becky Lynch said piss.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know you could say piss on USA. I didn't know that was a thing.
And that's TVPG.
But it was I watched it on the Hulu version of it. So I don't know if it was in the 9 o'clock hour or 10 o'clock hour. I'm on it. I want to say 10 o'clock hour.
That's essentially what brings me to what TV 14 would look like, because I feel like with the product they want to present, as meaning they're not going to present rape and all that nonsense.
No,
they're not going to do that.
Not, yeah.
And with TV being the way it is nowadays, what aren't they already getting away with?
I'm curious to see what the product's going to be. I think it's going to be
if they do that. They haven't agreed to do any of that stuff.
If they do, I don't think it's going to be that much different. I just don't see, because not like you said, we just talked about it. It's TV has evolved, so I don't see it. And
WWE has evolved.
That's true. So and the world in general has evolved. So it's one of those things. I don't think it's going to be a major change. I think it's just they're just part of their rebrand, I guess, if it happens.
Yes. That would be interesting. I think of all the programs, I would like to see it more on NXT, because, again, I feel like they've gotten away a little bit. NXT has fallen off. This new rebrand, to my eyes, hasn't been better. To some, it hasn't been worse, but either way, it hasn't been better.
No,
it's either been the same or worse for most of the audience.
It's been eh. Yeah. It's kind of like, it hasn't, it's kind of in the middle for me.
Yeah. Some people say it's still good. Some people say no good, but nobody says it's better.
No, it's just some people. For me, I've just been, it's kind of just steady. It's plateaued for me.
So a Survivor Series this upcoming Sunday night. On a Sunday night, well, it's going to be one of the last one of the big four on a Sunday night. We already know next year it's already on a Saturday, and we know Royal Rumble this upcoming year is going to be a Saturday.
Why are they doing? I just don't.
Well,
I know we'll get.
It's called the National Football League. You know it better than me.
Yes,
it's things like that. That's why.
That's ridiculous.
But Survivor Series is the 35th annual Survivor Series this upcoming Sunday, or the 34th anniversary of the Survivor Series, aka WWE. The 34th anniversary and the 35th Survivor Series are two different things. I still remember WrestleMania 25th anniversary was really WrestleMania 25. It wasn't the 25th anniversary. The one in Houston The one that they branded WrestleMania the 25th anniversary. It was WrestleMania 25, but it wasn't the 25th anniversary.
I'll just say this.
Just saying.
Survivor Series, man, it's older than me. That's cool.
It is the second oldest pay-per-view in WWE. As I mentioned, behind WrestleMania. There's a lot of cool statistics to go with it. We'll talk this upcoming one at Barclays Center. It is the first time that it has been in the New York City area since the Survivor Series that had Rock team up with Cena, go against The Miz and R-Truth. That was leading up to WrestleMania with The Rock and Cena. Was at the Garden.
Was that the part where
2011?
Where Rock like grabbed Cena at the end and Rock bottom? Is that am I thinking
yes,
the right
yes.
way?
They had to team up for one night.
Yeah.
And the Survivor Series has been kind of all over the road because it's unlike SummerSlam, which has been pretty steady, or even Royal Rumbles, which has been pretty steady. But Survivor Series has been all over the road with being an all Survivor Series based pay-per-view, being a non-Survivor pay-per-view, being championships on the line, being this brand supremacy now as of late, which is essentially what the bragging rights idea was for. So, I mean, with that being said, there's lots of cool stats and statistics to look at. We'll just talk first off this Survivor Series. You love Survivor Series. What really is it that makes you like Survivor Series so much?
To me, like I've said on previous episodes, it's the All-Star game it's the All-Star show for WWE. You're getting Raw versus SmackDown. You're getting these great dream matchups. I know we've seen the Becky Lynch's versus the Charlotte Flairs, but these matches are fun to watch because you don't see them all the time because they're on separate brands. I like the traditional Raw versus SmackDown match. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Bobby Lashley. Because here's the thing, I don't know how you feel about Adam Pearce, but Adam Pearce seems to have some issues with the Mysterios. I don't know about you, but that just
well, he's got Austin Theory now replacing Rey Mysterio.
Yeah,
the Survivor Series match this upcoming weekend.
Which I found like it was interesting the way Corey Graves worded it. I forget the exact verbiage, but it sounded reminiscent of when The Rock came out for the first time. I think he used for Austin Theory. I think he used the same verbiage as The Rock when Rock debuted. The phrase blue chip. The blue chipper.
Yes.
I think that was
Jim Ross used that phrase for The Rock when he made his debut.
And I thought that was interesting. I'm like, let's not compare Rock and Theory. I think Theory's got a great future. But for me, it's a good breakup from the normal pay-per-views. It doesn't have to be storylines. I just like the best wrestlers on both shows getting out and kicking the crap out of each other. That's
change, obviously. So this idea actually is kind of weird because I remember specifically we had back. I want to go back to like 2009, 2010, I think, when bragging rights was around. I might be wrong exactly on the years, but it was like a 3-year pay-per-view in which it was in early November, and it was the idea of what Survivor Series is now. So we had bragging rights in like early November, and then we had Survivor Series, which was kind of weird because it was like back-to-back pay-per-views with 5-on-5 main events. And I was like, well, why don't they just make that Survivor Series? I don't understand. And then they just essentially did. They got rid of bragging rights. And now Survivor Series and bragging rights seem to have merged.
I just like I like the All-Star feel. That's
even without being Raw versus SmackDown. Would Survivor Series be one of your favorites?
Yeah, it would because it's an All-Star feel because you don't get some matchups all the time. So like for example, I mean you could have the Charlotte Flairs and the Becky Lynch's like they could be on the same show or the same show same whatever. They could be on Raw and SmackDown together. But it's cool because maybe Becky's doing her own thing, Charlotte's doing her own thing, and they come back for Survivor Series to face off. I think it's just you get to see maybe you never before seen matchups before. I like the intrigue of that. I like
one
to
of
see
the problems
guys like
obviously is the fact that there's obviously nothing on the line in the sense of yes, it's a match, but
that's you know why I don't mind that because then it doesn't tip my hand on like okay who's gonna win. Because
that's true.
That's how I feel about it because you have these matches where, in this case, I'm just going to stick to modern, like this, this upcoming Survivor Series, Raw versus SmackDown. You don't know who's winning. Like if there was a belt on the line and you're like, okay, like Roman Reigns is not going to drop the belt, for example, like we're going to see Roman Reigns and Big E. We know no belts are on the line because what would be the point at that stage? Yes. Because we know Roman Reigns is not losing the title. Big E wouldn't lose the title either. So it's like, to me, it's just like, put the belts aside, let two of the best guys in the business right now duke it out.
And we saw it with Brock Lesnar and Daniel Bryan a couple of years ago in the same match.
Yeah, and remember Goldberg dominated Brock Lesnar. So
in 1 minute. Yeah,
that was, that
was a surprise.
That wasn't one of my moments, but I'm just, thinking of things that come to mind. I mean, there's so much history, which we're going to get to, like moments of our personal moments in a minute. It's the history, the lineage. And it's nice because, again, it doesn't tip the scale.
That is why, and I've always alluded to this, WrestleMania 28, Rock and Cena, one of my favorite main events because of the fact that it's not for the title. It's just been a build-up for a year. It's got a lot of pride on the line, and it felt like a WrestleMania main event, and you don't know which way it's going to go because regardless of their futures, it doesn't matter. The following year, the WrestleMania 29, in which they rematched, I was at, not as exciting. Rock's the champion facing John Cena. We know Rock's not sticking with the company for a long time. He took the belt at the Rumble, and he's just going to hold it to Mania.
He's going to drop the belt.
And he's going to drop the belt.
Yep.
That's why WrestleMania 29 wasn't as good as WrestleMania 28 because you knew the result. WrestleMania 28, and it ended up being a result that I was actually kind of surprised because you're like, well, if you were to predict the result, if I was to predict the result, it's John Cena. Rock, hands, you expect The Rock beat Hogan, so then Cena's going to beat Rock and pass it along. But then Rock beats Cena, and when Rock is a veteran, and he's not going to be around.
So
you got a little surprise.
That's why I like Survivor Series. Not only is it the all-star event of the year, it just there's no we follow it so closely. We sometimes, I'll be honest, I don't know about you, but I definitely get bored sometimes where I'm like, okay, Roman's not dropping the belt at this random pay-per-view.
I guess the issue is a lot of people have, and I do in a way, is that when you go to the pay-per-view, I'm not going to, so I'm going on Sunday night. And
you are going?
Yes, I'll be going.
Oh, okay. I didn't see, folks, I didn't know. He didn't tell me this until now. So that's cool.
I'll be going on Sunday night, but when I leave on Sunday, I won't have seen, I'll have seen some good matches, hopefully. You will. But I won't have seen a moment in which I think will probably hold up to I was there when this guy became the champion, or this big huge title change.
So you're saying if I'm just going on.
Kind of feels like a house show on pay-per-view. That's what I'm saying.
It's an all-star event. That's what
we're like. If this wasn't on pay-per-view,
so let me ask
this
you,
happened at an untelevised show, I don't think the results would affect anybody or matter.
So if there's a crazy spot that you may have never seen before, you're not going to be like, oh well, I didn't.
No. I remember Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan from a couple years ago being a good match. I'm just saying, without those things on the line, that if this happened at a non-televised show and the results got out, it wouldn't affect. You wouldn't be like, well, I have to watch Raw to find out about that.
I'm going to give you some. I
feel like when you turn in the Raw, whatever happened to Survivor Series can just kind of be forgotten and not even known about.
I'm going to throw something at you, and we'll revisit this next week, of course, after the show has happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have a really good feeling that Austin Theory is going to make a deep run. I have this feeling where he's the blue chipper. They're Corey Graves had him and said they probably told him to say it in his ear. They had to say, hey, make sure you hype this kid up as the blue chipper. To me, I think he's gonna make a run. I don't think he's gonna be the first guy eliminated. That's for sure.
Well, I will say one thing that could definitely get me excited about Survivor Series if this stuff happens. One, they've been hyping up. We saw last year about the big the anniversary of The Undertaker. He did his big retirement. Well, this year it's the 25th anniversary of the debut of The Rock. WWE has been making sure that it's the anniversary, and I know that they want to do it for LA, and LA was supposed to have happened to this past year and all that stuff, but you could just say, we got a big stadium to fill 2 nights in a row. Maybe Rock and Roman in Dallas, and maybe we start the seeds of it here.
That would be cool. I mean, here you go, and there's your moment.
That would be an awesome moment.
See, the wheels are turning. So,
but again, the odds of these things happen.
I know, but these things. That's why we watch pay-per-views, because we're looking. We want to be surprised once in a while, and that could be a good surprise. I'm not saying it's happened. You're not saying it's happened, but hey, if it happens, that's fantastic.
I will say, when it comes to the main event, one thing that would get me more hyped for this main event would be if Bobby Lashley never dropped the belt and it was Roman versus Bobby in that main event, title match versus match, as of two. Almost 2-year-long champions meeting up, and obviously those two guys. I mean, Big E, he's great and all. I'm not the biggest Big E fan in the whole world. I think Big E is obviously going to be like Kofi Kingston. He's going to go in against Roman Reigns. He's going to look like the underdog. He's going to be treated like the underdog. Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns, I think heel, behemoth. I think that would have been awesome.
Here's the thing too,
even without titles on the line, that would have been a Rock Cena thing where it's like, who cares what's on the line here? This is a matchup.
I'm not going to try to pile on the whole Big E thing because I like Big E as well. Mm-hmm. But for me, just from my perspective, I know Big E got the title way after Roman did. Roman's been a champion for over a year. I think year and a half almost. Yeah, it's been a long time. I think Big E loses the title before Roman loses his title. That's just my prediction.
I think the same thing too. I'm just saying that's why I think Bobby versus Roman. We're talking guys who have both been champion about a year if they were to fight. One would have been about a year, and one would have been about a year and a half, and they would be meeting up in a match that, again, would just been like
that would have been cool. That would be
super
fun.
long-term champions, top of their game. You know what I mean? I think it was awesome that they both just left with their titles at WrestleMania. I think, and even though they weren't even intermingled in the same storyline, just that was so cool. But either way, hopefully Big E and Roman can put on a good match. But we got some stats here for Survivor Series. I got one. 1992, when Undertaker beat Kamala, it was in a casket match, and that was the first ever WWF/WWE casket match in company history.
Wow, that's pretty good.
You got any statistics for us?
I got moments. I'm sticking with the moments. I'll let you do the stats.
I'll do the stats. So, I mean, if you're unaware, the first ever singles match at Survivor Series, the first Survivor Series 87, the first ever singles match, it wasn't a Survivor Series match, happened in 1991. Undertaker, Hogan for the belt. At the time, though, I mean, they still weren't 100% sure that they can main event a pay-per-view without the Survivor Series match. So 1992 was the first time that a singles match was the main event of the pay-per-view.
Was that the match where Ric Flair helped him out?
That wasn't. Undertaker became champion that night, 1 year after his debut. 1992, HBK and Bret Hart, the main event for the world title. In 1997, when they fought for the world title, obviously the screw job, that was the only, and still is the only time in Survivor Series history where we have a Survivor Series rematch. A match that happened before at a Survivor Series, and a match that happened again at a Survivor Series. Can't say that about Mania. We've seen Rock and Austin 3 times.
Yeah,
we've seen Michaels and Undertaker a few times.
That's a good one. I like that.
HBK has the most losses at Survivor Series with 10. I think he's got a ton of losses at WrestleMania as well. But
he is. It's funny because he's Mr. WrestleMania.
I think, again, wrestling is silly. And that's just
it's true. Yeah.
Randy Orton is actually, regardless of Survivor Series, is going to break a record for WWE, not just Survivor Series, but in general, this upcoming Sunday. He is currently tied with Kane for the most matches at a pay-per-view in WWE history. They both have 176 pay-per-view matches. So this upcoming Sunday, Randy Orton will have his 177th pay-per-view match.
Talk about longevity. And Randy can still go. He's going to still go for a while.
His first ever pay-per-view match, SummerSlam 03. I think I'm pretty sure that was the one in Phoenix. Yes, the one in Phoenix. He was in the Elimination Chamber. That was the second Elimination Chamber. I think the one Goldberg won. That was his first ever pay-per-view match in WWE history.
Wow.
This will be his 176. He's also got a lot of great stats Survivor Series wise. He has 5 Survivor Series match wins, which is the most. He has 3 sole survivors, which he's the last one standing, which is the most. And he has 16 eliminations in a Survivor Series
So when's
match.
he going in the Hall of Fame at this point? Can we just put him in while he's still wrestling?
Obviously, we talked about debuts. We know The Undertaker. We know The Rock. But don't forget The Shield. And I guess Sting. I mean, yes, he was in wrestling, but he made his WWE debut at Survivor Series. And Kurt Angle took on Shawn Stasiak. And that's prior to the Invasion Angle, Shawn Stasiak. That's Shawn Stasiak in WWE before he went to the failing WCW after that. But Kurt Angle beat him. He was he was known as Meat as well as then.
Meat.
That was Kurt Angle's debut at that Survivor Series.
I got 6 moments. I couldn't. It was hard. I mean, it was hard for me to get down to 6 because I had a lot because I'm a huge Survivor Series fan, as you know. I mean, I'm going to start. I don't have really much of an order, but except for the 2 that I'm going to name last. Mm-hmm. So my first one, I'm going to say Chuck Norris roundhouse kick to Jeff Jarrett. And here's the thing: 1994. That was a great year for Chuck Norris. His hit show Walker Texas Ranger was in the midst of, I think, its 2nd season. It was rolling there. He was doing movies. He was very Hollywood at that point. I mean, he's still a known guy these days, but at that point, he literally does that. He does the nice roundhouse kick that he's known for to Double J Jeff Jarrett. That's one of my moments because I'm a huge Chuck Norris fan. You already mentioned a couple, so spoiler alert, Kurt Angle debuted. And here's the thing. The match itself, a lot of people didn't like that match. But that match was more of a wrestling match. And it's funny because the appreciation for wrestling matches nowadays, people forget how good that wrestling match was. That sets the stage for what AEW is today. Another one, obviously, Undertaker. That was the debut. We already know about that. Another one I have is Paul Heyman screws Brock Lesnar. That was a good one. And then the two biggest ones. For me, it's 1 and 1A. You really could split hairs doing both. I like them both. Montreal Screwjob, obviously. And then the Shield debut. If you're watching on YouTube, I got my Hounds of Justice shirt from back in the day. So, of course, I had to rock it today for Survivor Series. But the thing that the stat that I have here, which I knew it, but like when I read it, I'm like, man, you forget how great of a stable they were. Every single member of the Shield has had single stardom. You can't say that about any other group.
Well, I mean, it was only a 3-man group.
That's out of the stables. Like if you go to like Degeneration X,
Evolution. Come on now. Have they?
Evolution. I would say this: Ric Flair was already established. This is the difference. The Shield they started out as they're just NXT guys. They were stars together, and then they were stars apart.
Well, I mean, you said about the New Day.
Well, here's the thing: Evolution. I'm a Shield guy. New Day. The thing is, they're not all. They all haven't been WWE or Universal champions.
We're waiting on Woods.
Which who knows at this point?
Yes, they've all been singles world champions.
Let's see. Ric Flair was already established.
That was the whole gimmick. They were already stars, except for Batista and Randy Orton, which were up-and-comers.
So the Shield had 3, the Evolution had 2, so the Shield's still better.
Yes. So
sorry, I'm a big Shield guy, as you know. So it's, to me, that night, I can't believe it's been 9 years. 9 years since they debuted, where they they did the Shield bomb on Ryback into the announce table. I'll never forget it. Obviously, the Montreal Screwjob was what it was. We could talk about that we've talked about that ad nauseum anyways, but everybody knows about that, man.
Some of my favorite Survivor Series moments. The one I mentioned a little bit earlier, actually, I liked that a lot. That was leading up that because I liked the whole year build for The Rock and John Cena. And obviously they took, after the contract signing the year before, they took quite the break from each other. But The Rock then made the return at Survivor Series to really kick off the storyline where he teamed up with John Cena. And I just thought that had a big fight feel. Sure. Obviously nothing on the line, but the first time ever, as they said in the intro, 2 known WrestleMania opponents. We knew WrestleMania, the main event at Survivor Series, already, and they were teaming up, and that kind of had a cool feel to it. Obviously, The Rock in general. I loved like the entranceway. The entranceway had like The Rock and Cena as like the all night of like their banners. So that you knew that pay-per-view was like Rock and Cena teaming up at the Garden. It kind of had that like that super show kind of feel, when you hear about that at like MSG where they have like these like super matches for like a super show, like a non-TV show or like big night at the Garden, and it was like that kind of feel. Like these guys are going to team up only at Madison Square Garden because something like this happened. Well, I thought that was kind of a big build. I like the original Elimination Chamber at the Garden. I thought that whole pay-per-view was great.
That was that finish was HBK and Triple H, right?
Yes. I mean, and then obviously that's the one in which Big Show got screwed, Paul Heyman screwed over Brock Lesnar, helped Big Show win the title. I mean, that whole pay-per-view I thought was awesome at the Garden. 03 in Dallas. I remember at the time, and it's weird that it's still remembered as the one time the WWE hyped up Survivor Series as like a WrestleMania kind of pay-per-view. I remember, and what I mean by that is if you remember the build to it, it's the only time that like days leading up to it, they had like a countdown, like 35 days till Survivor Series. And they had like a video package before they came back because they had the Limp Bizkit Build a Bridge song and they would have like the Dallas skyline and it would be like coming out of commercial or coming into commercial. They'd be like, Survivor Series and have like the countdown, like 31 days, similar to WrestleMania.
Yeah, they were really hyping it.
I had some great matches. It had a Shane McMahon versus Kane in the ambulance match, Vince versus The Undertaker in a Buried Alive match, in which put the end to the dead man biker Undertaker before he was to return to be the dead man.
The dead man. Yeah.
So that was the end of his. And obviously they had Survivor Series match, had Goldberg and others involved, but it just had kind of a WrestleMania kind of build to it. The winner take all match. There you go. There's the Survivor Series match, but with big implications. So that pay-per-view I thought was pretty good as well. Other than that, I remember obviously the Survivor Series in which Triple H was in the car and Stone Cold Steve Austin lifted him up on the crane and tipped the car over.
Yep. I remember that one. That's another moment too. I didn't even think about that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so Survivor Series has had some good. It could definitely be a pay-per-view that could not use a rebranding in the sense. I like the name. I like the history. Vince McMahon apparently in 2010, I remember very vividly, said he was going to put an end to Survivor Series back in February, but by the time Survivor Series came around, he thought elsewise and got talked out of it.
Smart move, Vince. You got to keep Survivor Series.
But again, this is the only pay-per-view of the big four in which I haven't gotten on a plane to go see it.
But you're going to see it anyways.
Yes, so. I'm going to see it, but at the same time, I already know I'm seeing Royal Rumble, and I already know I'm seeing WrestleMania, and I went out of my way to see SummerSlam, and I feel like there's a reason why this, of the big four.
Is this your first Survivor Series?
This is my first Survivor Series, and I feel like there's a reason why, and that's because it doesn't have that, oh boy, I can't wait knowing what I'm going to get Royal Rumble-wise, or WrestleMania-wise.
It's why people go to like MLB All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, and I've never been to like an MLB All-Star game. I've been to all the lots
Which
of
I'm
stadiums.
surprised, by the way,
because
being
of the
a baseball guy.
because of the fact that it's a very expensive ticket to see a exhibition game.
Yeah, but you
Which
get
is
to see,
essentially
you get
this
to
is
see,
a
you get to see
Royal
you
Rumble
get to see,
price ticket to see.
You get to see the best players in the world do what they do and put on a show. That's worth a ticket.
And that's what I'm hoping to see this Sunday at Survivor Series. And more importantly, I guess to keep Survivor Series going and to make it a big pay-per-view and to make it a pay-per-view worthy of going in a stadium, because out of the Big Four, it's never been in a stadium. And if you think Money in the Bank is part of the Big Four now, that's going to be in a stadium next year as well. So this one's never been in a stadium. Its largest crowd ever was at the Kiel Center in St. Louis for the 98 incarnation of Survivor Series. But again, the reason do you
remember the attendance on that?
I think it was like 21,000. That was a big place. I know the one in Montreal got about 20,000 as well. Those are very big arenas. But this upcoming one, which is expected to have about 11,000 at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, like I said, they could use this pay-per-view as what it is. If it's a Big Four pay-per-view, what it should be is it should be the start of the WrestleMania season. Obviously, the Royal Rumble really kicks things into gear, but it wouldn't be bad to kind of, and if The Rock comes in here, you know what I mean? Or Brock Lesnar comes back maybe in the TBA spot. Because again, in this 5-on-5 match, we got a TBA spot on Team SmackDown with McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, King Woods, Happy Corbin, TBD. What if Brock Lesnar jumps in there?
I think Brock Lesnar's the logical probably move there. It's gonna be a cool surprise, I think.
And the women's surprise for Team SmackDown. What are you thinking? I'm thinking maybe Asuka.
Yeah, I would say Asuka. I think that's a good surprise. I like Asuka. I like what she brings, and plus, I haven't seen her in a while.
So to go over, obviously, U.S. champion Damian Priest versus Intercontinental champion Shinsuke Nakamura. I remember this at 2001 Survivor Series. It was a unification match where the winner gets to keep their job, and one of those belts is gone. And many years later, it's the same match again. This time, it's not title for title.
No,
it's just champion versus champion. But it kind of feels like that 01 Survivor Series where it's champion versus champion.
Have these guys faced off before? Because I don't remember.
I don't. You know,
this is why Survivor Series is
because
good.
Because their NXT time definitely did not cross.
Yeah, I would say this is the first time you're going to see it. So it's matches you haven't seen ever or matches you haven't seen in a long time. That's another reason why Survivor Series is
I will say
good.
This is what all of Survivor Series in the future should be. To close out this week's show, here's what I'll say. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, you got to say that has had the build.
Oh, 100%. That's definitely had the build. And the way they've been cutting promos on each other, absolutely fantastic.
So if they can do that with other matches in the future.
I forgot to mention, I know we're on a side topic real quick. Seth Rollins acknowledged that he has a baby on Raw this past week. He had somebody he had somebody carrying his bag to say, "Don't wake the baby." So that was the first time I've heard them acknowledge that they have their child on TV. So there's a little nugget there.
So Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, that's the one I'm looking forward the most. That one's had the best build.
Yeah.
That one's had the off-screen build, that kind of stuff. Again, you can have these all-star kind of matches.
That's the match
but
I'm looking
I
for.
like that I have a reason. Like, you know, you got to, like Big E, Roman Reigns. If it was Big E or if it was Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley, like I said, I'd be super hyped.
I'm looking forward to it either way. It's going to be fun.
But either way, we'll talk about whatever happens at Survivor Series next week's Thanksgiving week. Survivor Series, unfortunately, is no longer on Thanksgiving night. I wish it was, but it no longer is. It's on a typical Sunday night. The first time ever that happened was 1995, that it left Thanksgiving either eve or night. For the Heel of Face podcast, Brandon, I'm Jared. We'll talk to you next week.